Wellington, guys, here we are. This dish has a lot of raw appeal and the stakes are high and the prices of beef lately even higher. But I wanted to do something a little different for you guys and something that your dinner guests will jump over the moon for. No, I didn't just invent the mini beef Wellington. Turns out cooks have been shrinking this dish since the 1960s. The beef in a beef Wellington is the center cut beef tenderloin. What we're gonna make here are individual portions using the filet mignon, which comes from the exact same cut. So to start off, we're gonna season these heavily with salt and pepper. And we're gonna place these on a wire rack uncovered in the refrigerator overnight. And this is what Alton Brown loves to call a dry brine. I'm kidding, he hates the term. Leaving it uncovered in the refrigerator draws out the moisture so the surface can get nice and dry for a better sear tomorrow. It also lets the seasoning penetrate the meat. The name Beef Wellington was supposedly named after Arthur Wellesley, the Duke of Wellington, after his victory at Waterloo in 1815. Sounds very British, right? Except that there's a surviving menu from that dinner, and Beef Wellington isn't on the menu. The man beat Napoleon and still couldn't get his name on the dish. We want to finely chop 1 pound of white mushrooms, or also called button mushrooms. And you're looking for the consistency kind of like that. Because what we're gonna do is cook this in the pan until all of the water is gone. And when I say dry, I mean dry, dry. Because tomorrow when we wrap this Wellington, we don't want any of these mushrooms to be wet and pasty, which will ruin the puff pastry. So we want these as dry as we can get them. So what we're making here is a Duxelles. I'm gonna also add 2 shallots to the mix. Once this is rendered down in the pan, we'll also put this in the fridge to hang out with our fillets and play all night in the fridge. That'll give it a chance to dry out even more, as well as the flavors to meld together a little bit better. So while I'm chopping these up, back to the name Beef Wellington. One popular theory is that it looks like a Wellington boot, the leather riding boot, not the green garden kind. Here's the real twist. The Beef Wellington probably isn't even British. It's more likely derived from the French. And you know from my last video how horrible my French is, so I'm not even going to attempt this word. The earliest written record of beef a la Wellington is from 1903, and the first actual known recipe wasn't even printed until 1940 in a Chicago hotel cookbook. So the proudly British dish, which was most likely invented in France, has an American birth certificate. Our fungi are all chopped up. Moving over to our 2 shallots. All right, let's get the water rendered out of these. This will probably take 15 to 20 minutes. There's a lot of water in mushrooms. Pan is on medium-high heat, and we need to wash these closely. We don't want them to burn, but we do want all of the moisture out. Can't say this enough, all of it. If you don't have shallots, you can use yellow onions, white onions, or if you don't like onions, you can omit it altogether. And by the way, Gordon Ramsay didn't invent this dish either. Julia Child already had a French version of it on American television in 1965. Ramsay just made it his signature dish and TV made it stick. You can see all of that water already. And there is no water, no oil, nothing added to this pan. That's how much water are in these mushrooms. It's getting there. A lot of that water is evaporated, but I still see a lot of water in there. You can hear the sizzle changing. So you can tell the water is almost gone. At this point, I'm going to put in 2 tablespoons of fresh thyme. The sound has changed from more of a bubble to a sizzle, so we know we're pretty close to being there. But if you move things around, you can still see wetness. You can still see water bubbling up. Okay, I don't see any more liquid, and it's starting to stick a little, which means it's there. It's about as dry as we're going to get it. I'm going to remove this from the heat and transfer it to a sheet pan. All right, we transferred this to a sheet pan. This is gonna go straight into the fridge with the fillets and rest until tomorrow. And I'll meet you back here to sear the fillets, wrap them up, and put them in the oven. We have our puff pastry resting on the counter, straight out of the freezer. Some high heat oil for the pan. Crank that pan up on high, because we're gonna sear hard and fast here. We're not trying to cook it through. That would be a mistake. Got some smoke in the pan. They only need about 30 seconds to 1 minute on each side. Now while we let our beef cool down so it doesn't turn our puff pastry into a hot mess, we're going to deglaze the pan that we just cooked them in with some red wine. You can use sherry or any red wine, about a half a cup, and about a half a cup of beef broth. We'll get this bubbling up, and then we'll reduce it down to a simmer. Stir in a slurry. I'm using 1 tablespoon of cornstarch with 2 tablespoons of that beef broth that we just poured in here. Turn that heat right back up if you need to, and then turn it back down to a simmer. Drop in about 2 tablespoons of butter. Bloop. While we let this simmer for a few minutes, let's talk about button mushrooms. Those actually have a pretty strange story. Underneath Paris, there's a huge limestone quarry, the same tunnels that became the Paris catacombs, stacked with the remains of 6 million people. That story's a little too morbid to tell here, but those tunnels turned out to stay the perfect cool, humid, dark temperatures year-round that were great for something else entirely: mushrooms. Add a little bit of salt to this, and a little bit more crushed peppers. By the 1880s, there were over 300 mushroom farms operating in these tunnels. So this bland little grocery store mushroom actually has Paris mushroom as its real name in France, which is another French word that I'm not about to screw up. With a farming history that's part agriculture and part horror film. And this whole thing started by accident. Quarry workers' horses would leave, how do I put this, deposits near the tunnel entrances. Wild mushroom spores would land in it, and mushrooms would just grow. One farmer noticed this and drug it deeper into the tunnels. And bam pow, year-round mushroom farming. Alright, this is perfect for our Wellingtons. Alright, puff pastry's been sitting here for about 10-15 minutes. It's nice and pliable, still nice and cool. Fillets are rested over there. I'm gonna roll this out just a little bit thinner. We moved our puff pastry over to the side. Now we need to roll out some plastic wrap, overlap our prosciutto. Place our Duxelles on top of the prosciutto. Now we want to brush one of our fillets with some Dijon mustard. Just a light little brush is fine. It's like painting a fence. Wax on, wax off. Just a thin layer to coat it. Now this part can get a little tricky. Try to place your fillet towards the front. We could have used another slice of prosciutto on the bottom. Not the prettiest I've done, but it'll work. I'll lob these pieces off after we take it out of the fridge. So we want to chill this in the fridge for 20 to 30 minutes. My second one turned out much nicer. Figures, not on camera. Guess the first one was camera shy. While we wait for those to cool off in the fridge, we're gonna go ahead and preheat the oven to 425. And we're gonna want some egg wash. Give it a little mixy. Grab one of our wellies, unroll it from its cocoon. Use a butter knife here. Fold the end down, get rid of any excess. Brush our egg wash on top. And we'll score the top just slightly. Now this isn't just for looks either. This will actually release the steam in there as it cooks. We'll place this in the oven until the internal temperature comes out 127, 128-ish. All right, first one's out of the oven. Looks pretty darn good. Now we need to let this rest for at least 10 to 15 minutes. That way all those juices go right back in and don't end up on your plate. I was gonna ask my niece if she wanted to try this, but shiitake too much. Well, this doesn't leave much room for debate. Even with the mishap of me rolling it up, I mean, hey, I keep it real. If I make a mistake, I make a mistake. I'm not gonna edit it out. I haven't made these things in over 10 years, but it still turned out perfect. I mean, it's not like it's a toadstool. All right, let's put a cap on all these mushroom jokes. But don't ever lose your funny bone, marrow. Wellington, let's cut into this thing. Let's see how we did. Moment of truth. Let's put some gravy on it, have a taste. I also have the second one rusted back there as well. Puff pastry stayed nice and crispy. That meat is seasoned beautifully with mushrooms. Do yourselves a favor and try this one. Stay spicy, my friends. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment.